Hello, incredible people. Welcome to On with Orian, sharing information that people want to know. I am just so delighted to be here this evening. And before I even get started, I just want to give praise and glory to our Father in heaven because He is, without Him, this would not be possible for me. So I know where I have to give all the glory to. So, again, thank you so much for sharing with us. And just excited because I have a wonderful guest this evening. This person. His name is Eugene Lee. He is an outstanding person to tell us more about fraud and abuse, scams, because we need to know in this time of year. Matter of fact, in this season, because there's a lot of this going on. So, anyway, I want to go ahead and introduce this wonderful person, and his name again is Eugene Lee. Hello, Eugene. How are you?
I'm doing great, Orian. Thank you again so much for having me on, and I'm just so excited to share and talk about a very important subject, and that is scams and frauds.
Okay, great. I am so delighted that you are able to join me this evening and the many people who are listening. And a little bit I want to talk about you, first of all. You were born and raised in Centerville, Virginia. You are a product of Fairfax County Public Schools. You went to William and Mary College, and you're a liaison officer for Northern Virginia. Um, I just wanted to share that you actually have done a lot of traveling the Northern Virginia region to raise awareness of the office many programs, including scams and frauds prevention. One pill can kill, human trafficking awareness, the Medicaid fraud control unit, and more. Prior to joining the office, he was a personal care assistant for seniors and helps out at his family's small business in Ashburn. Wow, that is so amazing your humanity ways. That's beautiful, and I mean we need more of that. We really do. So, how are you feeling this evening?
I'm feeling great. The weather is getting quite cold now, though, so people should make sure that they bundle up and get and prepare for the colder weather that's coming. That's for
Okay.
sure.
Yes, yes. I put on my long boots today. Usually I have the short ones on, but I said no. I think I better put on the long ones. But anyway, I just want to say that I am again delighted that you have joined us, and I'm
Thank you.
just honored that you took this time because you could be doing something else.
Oh, the
So
pleasure's all mine. Don't worry about it.
okay, well, thank you so much. Um, so tell me, I'm going to ask you a few questions. I know that you have other things that you probably want to do, but first of all, I just want you to tell me a little bit about your organization.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I work for the Office of the Attorney General of Virginia under Attorney General Jason Miyares. I started this past year, and it's been such a great privilege and honor to be able to work for such an amazing person and also amazing office. So when people think and hear about the Attorney General's office, usually they think strictly about court cases and lawyers in the courtroom, right? But the office actually does so much more than that. And we have divisions that are dedicated to things like consumer protection, criminal justice, public safety, civil rights as well. But we also have our programs and outreach team, and that's the team that I'm a part of, specifically the outreach team, right? And that's the team that talks about the things like scams and frauds and the other topics that you mentioned, like one pill can kill, our anti-human trafficking efforts, Operation Ceasefire, and all of those things were initiated by this Attorney General, Jason Miyares. And the hope was to ultimately make Virginia a safer place, right? So, my job specifically as a community liaison officer, actually, in short, is to be a bridge between the Attorney General's office and also the communities that we serve, right? And that's exactly why this topic is so important because the best defense against scams and frauds, the subject we're talking about today, is awareness. And that's what me and my other community liaison officers across the Commonwealth do is we go out and we meet these communities in person. We're talking about small business groups like chambers of commerces. We're talking about Rotary clubs. We're talking about religious and cultural and faith organizations as well. we go to whoever we can to try and spread the message about scams and frauds awareness and a um, whole other topics as well.
Wow, very interesting. I can tell you really enjoy your job.
Oh yeah, I love it. No, I definitely love it. It's one of the best. It's one of the best jobs I've ever had.
Great, great, great. Okay. Well, how exactly do scams and frauds look like in 2025, and what are the most common ones to look out for? This we all need to know.
Oh yeah, that's it's very important. And the scams and frauds of 2025, while a lot of them have similarities with the scams of, 10, 20, 30 years ago, times have changed so much. Technology has gotten a lot more sophisticated. So that means that the scams and frauds have gotten a lot more sophisticated as well. And the money shows that the US loses hundreds of billions of dollars from scams and frauds. We're talking about people who are losing all the money in their savings account, or so that could be like $100,000 plus, or they get scammed out of $20 here and there, but it adds up, and next thing you know, you've lost about $100,000 from these scams and frauds. So I could go on for a full hour about scams and frauds. That's how dangerous and that's how serious this topic is, right? But I'll just share with you some of the most serious ones that we have seen in the Commonwealth and stories I've personally heard from people I've talked to across the Northern Virginia region, right? So, one of the ones that I wanted to bring awareness about is impersonation scams. This one's a bit common, actually, and it's a bit older because it just involves somebody typically pretending to be from a trusted institution. We're talking about a government, the bank, a delivery company, right? And they will either come to you in person or they'll contact you by phone or by email, right? And you've probably gotten these messages before, right? Have you gotten the messages saying, "Hi, this is Amazon. We have your package at the warehouse. Please share with us X, Y, and Z so that we can get your package out as soon as possible," right? That's a very common type of an impersonation scam, and that's the one of the most common ones you see in Northern Virginia. A lot of people have fallen for it, but fortunately, as we raise awareness of it, we can cut down on it. But essentially, you just have to be aware of anybody who claims to be working for an institution, right? Just remember that the government will not come knocking at your door. I mean, unless we're talking about the IRS, but at that point, you're under a lot of heat already, right? But the government will never pound on your door and threaten you at the door and say, if you do not pay us right now, we will take action, right? They will not do that. The government will also always mail you information. They will never text you saying, hey, you have an unpaid toll. That's another common one that you probably have gotten, and a lot of other people have gotten as well, saying, "Hey, this is the DMV of Virginia. We need you to pay this unpaid toll, or else it will accumulate, and next thing you know, you're going to be paying a lot of money." The DMV will never do that. They've made it very clear on their website that they will not text you about unpaid tolls or fines. It will always be through mail, right? Same thing with Amazon, is that always cross-reference the website and also the address of the person, right? Whether it's the phone number or the email address, you cross-reference it with online. And typically you'll see the number or the email address that they're contacting you from is from overseas. Most commonly, we see it in India, Pakistan, or Eastern Europe. So that's one of the ones.
Can I just ask you a question real quick?
Sure, yeah.
Some of the, I guess you could say their information as far as what organization they're with, isn't it have to be a HTTP colon backslash? Is that that's how you know that it's for real? It's not fake? Is that the way to do it? Or they can mimic that so well today?
Yeah, so HTTPS colon slash slash is typically a nice way to know that the website is secure, right?
Mhm.
Or if you see .gov as well at the end of the address, those are some of the common signs that it can be a trusted website, right? But again, you always have to make sure that you do not click on links that are just sent to you by text or email, unless it's from a trusted person or you're expecting it, right?
Okay.
Because because anyone can create a link, right? A website link. It looks like it's an official link, but they can actually edit the link to appear like a different link when you're actually clicking on something else, right? So
Oh,
they'll completely change how it appears like. So it can appear like https://dmv.gov, right? And it'll appear like that in the email or the text, but actually they edited it so that it looks like that, but in actuality you're clicking on a totally fake link, where after you click on it they'll have control of some of your devices, or they'll take your information, private information, things like that. So yes, there are key signs to look for when you're looking to see if things are legitimate, but even those cannot always be trusted. Make sure that you always cross reference, and also make sure that you don't click on any links that you get out of the blue, right? Cross
mm.
reference it. That's my big takeaway.
Something I wanted to ask you all day long, and I've heard other people say it too. You're getting these calls that says potential scam, and I mean this is all day long. And
Hmm.
here lately, I just been picking it up and putting it down, picking it up and putting it down. I said, well, maybe they'll get irritated eventually, because I just pick it up and put it down. And then if I pick it up and I wait for them to say something, they hang up. So I'm
Hmm.
thinking in my mind, are they getting information just by me picking it up?
So actually, what we advise is that if you are getting a call from somebody, and the number is something you do not recognize, don't even bother picking it up, right? Because if they're not in your contacts already, right, or if it's someone you're not expecting, right? So let's
Mhm.
say you're expecting test results from your doctor at 4 o'clock, and you get a call at 4 o'clock. Usually, you trust that number. I would say you can pick that up, right, because you were expecting the call. Even
Right.
if it's like a number you don't recognize, you're expecting the call, and also you can check online if it matches that doctor's office's number, right?
Okay.
However, we advise that you don't pick up calls that just have a random caller ID that you do not recognize, right? And sometimes the phone will actually tell you like likely scam or something like that. But if it doesn't, make sure that you cross reference again. Big takeaways: cross reference every piece of information, because you do not know what that number comes from. They could
That's
be calling you to get a snippet of your voice, and I'm going to cover this in another question about AI. I'll cover that soon, but they might get a snippet of your voice, as simple as you saying, "Hello, who is this?" Right, and then they'll hang up. They'll probably take that recording of your voice and use AI tools to create a deep fake of your voice so that they can impersonate your voice, which is
ooh,
really scary to think about. Yeah. And I'll talk more about AI in a few minutes, but essentially, do not pick up numbers that you do not recognize. If it's that important, they'll leave you a voicemail saying who they are and why they're calling.
that's
Any
true.
legitimate real person who has any business calling
Mm.
you should be doing that. And that's what we always recommend, is that you wait for that information, or you just don't bother picking it up. If it's that important, they would do that for you.
Suppose you're getting like 10 a day of these calls. I mean, I get like sometimes 10. And after a while, I just got so annoyed that I just said, I'm going to pick them up and hang up, pick them up and hang them up, like that, because it was just getting to be too much. So you're saying you recommend that I just never pick them up at all.
Exactly. Don't even bother picking up. And actually, what you might be a victim of it actually is because you initially picked up one phone call in the very beginning. Who knows how far back it was, but you picked up that one phone call, and a lot of these organizations, these scammers and fraudsters, really they're predators. They will communicate with other partners within the same scamming and fraudster rings, right? And they'll say, this is a legitimate number, this is a real person, you can call this person, right? So
Okay.
sometimes they're kind of testing the ground, seeing if that's a real number, right? And then once you pick up, even if you don't say anything, the fact that you picked up the call shows that someone is behind that phone. So what
Okay.
they'll do is they'll keep calling you and calling you and calling you and hoping that you would pick up, and then you would also say something. So it could be because you picked it up initially. So what I recommend in your case, and for other people who are in your position who are getting constantly harassed, is don't bother picking up the call. Don't accept the call. um, decline it immediately or just let it go to voicemail.
Okay, thank you. That's very good information
Yep.
that I definitely follow from now on.
Yeah,
I,
and I have some other I have a few other scams and frauds that I can talk to you about just really briefly. There's also the investment in crypto scams. That
okay,
one's also getting very popular with the rise of crypto as well. That's getting very popular, and unfortunately, um, a lot of young people actually have been falling for this one is the crypto one. And there's also romance scams where and this one's incredibly sad because I've heard personal stories of a lot of seniors who have fallen for this one. But romance scams essentially is when a fake person who is typically impersonating another person, commonly known as catfishing, right? They'll catfish the senior who they may have seen is recently divorced or going through a tough time, or just they'll find whatever information they can that shows that they might be in mental or emotional distress, and they'll take advantage of that. So they'll reach out to them, catfishing, right, pretending they're someone that the senior might be interested in, and they build a relationship, a
okay,
romantic one. But typically, and this is a big red flag that you can look out for, they are really fast with love bombing. You're probably familiar with love bombing. Is when you profess your love immediately, right? These are what these scammers will do. They'll say, "Oh, I love you so much," after just like a couple days of like
been
talking,
there,
right? Uh,
been there.
exactly, yeah. Thankfully that you haven't been scammed out of that experience, right? Because in these experiences, they'll say, "I love you. I'll do anything for you." They'll send pictures, fake pictures, right? Of themselves, and they'll also sometimes take you one of two paths, right? The first path is the financial scam, which is they'll say, "Hey, could you send me $50 for this? I really want to get this." Or, "Hey, I need some money. I'm really tight. I need gas." Or, "I want to buy this dress to look good for you. Can you send me $100?" And little by little, they ask for more money.
Hmm.
And you'd send money to someone that you love, right?
No,
But unfortunately, well, a lot of people would, right? And
not this woman.
unfortunately, in these cases, right? Unfortunately, these people are pretending to love you. They'll take advantage of your emotions and of your heart, of your maybe recent heartbreak, and they'll take, next thing you know, they're taking thousands away from you. The second option that happens and is also very sad is they will exchange maybe a little explicit photos of each other, right? So they'll make you send photos of yourself that is quite compromising that you would not want to make public, right? And then that's when they'll reveal themselves. Is if you do not send me $10,000 right now, I will release this photo to all your friends and family on social media.
And make you,
They blackmail you, and that's blackmailing you, right?
and then what
But
they do,
a
they
lot of
take,
seniors will end up paying that price because they're just so embarrassed by what just happened to them. They don't want pictures of themselves that are so compromising, so explicit. They might have grandkids too. They don't want their grandkids seeing them like that, right? So they pay the price, and unfortunately, this happens quite a lot.
mm. Well, I thank you very much for informing me about that because for me, I would just have to take that chance and tell my grandchildren know who I am. They know I'm a minister. And they also know that anything like that is fake and it would teach them. So if they want to put me out there like that, I'll say, hey, world, this is the big scam today. This is what's happening. And that would be great for my podcast. Yeah. So I know it's not my body or whatever. So it would really bring me more people to my podcast, to know that we have that going on. So that may be something interesting. But
Mhm,
I take care of my grandchildren and my children, but I don't do it through internet at all.
mhm.
No, I'm not the type. They don't they drop me quickly because I'm a smart person to allow that. So anyway, that was really great. So do you have anything else you want to talk about, or do you want to go to the next question?
And just really briefly, I'll talk about the phishing and tech support scams. You've probably heard of
Okay.
this one where um, they'll send you emails saying your information's compromised, you need to act immediately. And they'll make you click on a link where they'll actually take control of your computer, right? And before
Okay.
your eyes, they'll take all your private information. We're talking about bank account info, maybe social security number, any private information they can find on your computer, they'll take advantage of. So you need to be
Wow.
careful about the phishing and the tech support scams. Do not click on any links that are suspicious. Really don't click on any links unless you know exactly where that link came from and where it leads to, right? Always come from a trusted source and cross reference to see if it's a trusted source. And then lastly, there's also the job and rental scams. This one's a really old scam. Unfortunately, still very common. Is you'll have people who are offering fake job offers or maybe apartment listings, right? And they'll demand certain things, and they promise you certain things, and in the end, you pay the deposit or you pay upfront. The next thing you know, they ghost you. They're gone.
What about, I get a lot of calls about real estate. Do you want to sell your property?
Mhm.
What would you say about that?
Well, there's a difference between like solicitation, like ads, people advertising their business. So a lot of real estate companies will go out and be like, "Hey, we can sell your home and make you lots of money." So there's a difference between someone who's advertising themselves, right?
Mhm.
Soliciting their business, what they
Okay.
can offer, and then them saying like, "Hey, I have something for you. Give me money right now, and I can do this for you." Right. So businesses will not demand your money, right, upfront or for whatever reason, right? They'll usually like advertise their business, and if you choose to get their business, that'll be nice, right?
Okay.
But it depends. I think it depends. It would depend. I need to know more context about your specific example, but look out to see if it's whether it's an ad from a legitimate business or if
Mm-hmm.
it's like some strange random um, demand that they're making.
Okay. Boy, this is very interesting.
Yeah, if
Wow.
I had more time, I'd also cover a very sad one, which is Medicaid fraud, which I'm sure you probably never heard of Medicaid fraud. Before this job, I definitely never heard of Medicaid fraud, and I didn't know it was incredibly common and very sad, which is these doctors or caregiving organizations, right, caregiving companies will take advantage of seniors' Medicaid funds, right? Billing them for Medicaid funds, right? For services that they ultimately will never provide, right? So in the form of doctors, you'll see this in them billing you for tests that they gave you, but in reality they never gave you it, but they're going to bill Medicaid for anyway. So they'll get like a couple $100 for a few tests that they never even gave you, right? And hope they're just hoping that you're just not going to double check, or you're just going to trust the doctor enough that you won't double check or question them on it. And then the other one that we see very commonly, especially up here in Northern Virginia, are caregiving organizations and caregivers who are taking advantage of Medicaid funds, right? So there's caregivers who provide care every single day, right, for
Excuse me.
multiple hours a day. What a lot of these organizations and individual caregivers sometimes do is they'll bill it as Medicaid as if they're coming in every single day, 5 hours a day. But in reality, the caregiver might be only coming in for like a couple hours, most once a week, once a month, or maybe never, right? And it's incredibly sad because these are typically seniors who need caregiving assistance, right? They need caregivers to help them, right? And they just won't receive it, and they'll be defrauded of their Medicaid funds. But not only are they defrauded of their Medicaid funds, but they're also scammed out of the proper care that they need.
Hmm.
I could talk so much more about that, but
Wow.
I don't know if you're running out of time.
No, question for you. Is this something that can be monitored?
Oh yeah, we have entire team dedicated to it. We have the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit.
Mm-hmm.
It's been around for a while. We've been keeping our eye on this issue. Unfortunately, I'm not a legal expert. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't get into nitty gritty. But also, there's ongoing investigations, so I can't speak too much on about it. But essentially, we are keeping eye on certain um, bad actors in the caregiving industry, right? Who
Okay.
are taking serious advantage of Medicaid funds. We're talking about probably millions of dollars lost. Um, so we are on it. We're working on it, but ultimately we really need the community to help provide uh, feedback on it. You know, if you are a senior who is supposed to be, or you think you're supposed to be getting caregiving assistance, right? You know, you remember it was mentioned to you years ago, but for some reason your caregiver only comes in like once a week for like an hour and then leaves, right? If
Uh,
you are a victim of that, please reach out to our Medicaid Fraud Control Unit. You can go to our Attorney General's website. So you can just type in www.ag or Virginia Attorney General on Google, right?
mhm.
And you can go to our Medicaid Fraud Control Unit tab or section, and there you can submit a complaint or submit a tip, and we can hopefully try to work off of your tip. We rely heavily, actually, on actual community members coming out and speaking about their experience, so that we can use that as evidence and proceed forward with any legal action. But um, it's a very serious and sad issue. Unfortunately, we're talking about seniors getting hurt, but also millions of dollars of Medicaid funds being lost.
I have a question. I don't know if you'll be able to answer it at this today,
Mhm.
but if you could just generally tell me briefly the difference between Medicaid and Medicare.
Yeah, so the reason why I we have a Medicaid fraud control unit and not Medicare is because Medicaid is run through the state, right? So Medicaid is solely distributed through the state, whereas Medicare is a federal program. So there
Uh,
is Medicare fraud out there, but we don't have jurisdiction over that. We refer that to our federal partners over there in DC. But that's why we have our Medicaid fraud control unit, because the state, the Commonwealth of Virginia distributes those funds to seniors. We have oversight over it, so that means that we can also launch investigation and take legal action if there's bad actors who are taking advantage of Medicaid funds. That's a great question, though.
oh, okay then. Well, let's go on to the next question.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. The next one would be, who is typically more at risk?
Yeah, so the short answer to that really is everybody. But it really depends on the scam. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we typically thought of, and the data does support this, is that typically our seniors, our elderly, are typically more at risk for scams and frauds
Mm-hmm.
because they may not have as much of a digital knowledge or experience to work with. What links to trust, or can I pick up whatever phone call? Because back in the
Mm-hmm.
day, you can typically trust whoever's behind the phone call,
Right.
and if depending on how they sounded, you can always just, reject the call and say, "Oh, I don't have a good feeling about this," and that'll be it, right?
Right.
Unfortunately, these days, because, like I mentioned, scams have gotten so advanced,
Mm-hmm.
everyone's at risk. So seniors and our elderly have seen a very high number of them getting defrauded of their money, right? And that's true. And unfortunately, that's something we can only work on through awareness and equipping our seniors to be more knowledgeable about the scams and
Right.
frauds.
Right.
But we also see younger people, actually. You'd be surprised by that. Younger people my age and younger as well, getting scammed as well. I mentioned the whole crypto thing, right? Financial advice, or financial advisors reaching out to young people saying, "Hey, um, got a great investment opportunity for you," and they'll trick them into investing into something that doesn't really exist. Uh, and typically for younger people, you usually see smaller amounts of money get scammed, whereas for older seniors and adults, you see large quantities scammed because scammers like to go after, especially retired seniors, because what
Mm-hmm.
do retired seniors have? They have a savings account. They have Social Security, right? They have a large pool of money that is lying in the bank, and the scammers want that money desperately. So that's why you really see a lot of our seniors being targeted by scammers, is because they are typically not well equipped or knowledgeable with digital literacy,
Mm-hmm.
but also they tend to be a bit more trusting of institutions, right? So That's the unfortunate reality. So the short answer to your question is everybody, but the long answer is it depends on the scam and the fraud.
Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, this is one that everybody wants to know about. How is AI, artificial intelligence, playing a part in all this, and what are the new dangers of it?
Yeah, so I touched on this briefly, but that's a great question actually. And honestly, you can make a whole podcast about, the dangers of AI because as helpful as AI is to some people and the tools that's providing us, it's also the same tool that bad actors can use, right? So just because it's a tool means the tool can be used by good people but also bad people. And unfortunately, scammers um they're not that stupid or else it wouldn't be a billion-dollar industry, right? Hundreds of
Right.
billions of dollars. It's a very profitable business, unfortunately, for the ones that are successful. AI can help these scammers appear more human. They can also get rid of all those spelling mistakes and the grammar mistakes that you saw in the past scams, right? You read a message saying, "Hello, this is from the DMV of Virginia," but they spelled Virginia wrong, right? And that's obviously what government institution will spell this their own state wrong, right? But
Wow.
now with AI, they'll type in the prompt, say exactly what they want, and boom, next thing you know, the AI has prepared you a full script of what to say or what to send as a text message, and it will seem so legitimate, which is why you see so much money getting lost these days, is because these scammers are now relying more and more on AI,
Mhm,
whether
mhm,
it's to use deep fakes of your voices. Like I
mhm.
mentioned earlier, they'll get a snippet of your voice, they'll create a deep fake of it, and they'll use that to gain access to different information or to get money. And I'll share you a story about deepfake voice in a minute. But they use deepfake, right? Or they use it to create scripts and generate scripts for them, right? Now back to the deepfake thing. I actually have a very I actually heard this from two separate people. So it's really scary that it's happened to more than one person that I know personally. But essentially, what happened is there's these two seniors, right, married, and they help their grandkid unpack for college, right? They took their grandkid to college,
Mhm.
unpacked their stuff, set them up in dorm room, and snapped a nice little picture of them in front of like the college building and posted on their Facebook. Well, a scammer got a hold of that picture because it's public. They saw that it was public picture. They saw that there are two seniors with a grandchild who's going to college. Okay, great. Now they know that there's a relationship there and that they're close. They can assume they're close. That scammer then, using the same profile, the Facebook profile of this couple, right, found their grandchild because their grandchild was friends with their grandparents on Facebook, right? And they got hold of the grandchild's information. They called the grandchild, right, and he picked up. He spoke a bit to them, and they hung up. And they had a snippet of their voice. And what they did is with AI, they created an artificial intelligence rendering of his voice, right?
Mm.
So it sounds exactly like him, but it's a machine. It's not him at all. And with that snippet of his voice, they called the grandparents and said, "Hello, this is the police department of this town. We have your grandson in custody, right? He's in jail right now,
Wow.
right? For disorderly conduct, right? Believable, perhaps because college kids, they might drink a bit too much and so on and so forth. But the
Sure.
grandparents were actually smart. They said, "Oh, really?" And they didn't believe it at first, right? They were like, "Okay, whatever." It's like, "All right, if you really do have our grandson, put him on the phone. We want to hear him." And they used the AI generated voice of him saying, "Hey, grandpa, yeah, I'm in jail. I'm so sorry. Can you not tell mom and dad about this?" And the
Mhm.
grandparents hearing like the grandson's voice, they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is real. Like, you how could you be in jail?" And so on and so forth. And next thing you know, they paid the bail. They paid the bail to the police department. And this was about, I believe, $10,000 they sent to this police
Ooh.
department, right, to get their grandson out of jail.
They thought.
The next day, they called the grandson, said, "How could you have done that? Like, make sure this never happens again. The grandson's just confused and say, "What are you talking about, Grandpa? Like I was fine. I was not in jail." And they called the parents, and after some cross referencing, they found out that the grandson never went to jail. The police department never called them, and they just lost $10,000 to some
Wow.
random scammer out there who used artificial intelligence against them. So that happened. I didn't hear that personally once, but I heard a similar story twice personally.
Mhm. Well, if that's so, how come you're constantly getting your banks to want to use your voice? They said it's safe, but how is it
It
safe if that can?
Traditionally it has been safe, right? But I would say that when you are calling a bank, make sure that you are using the number that's directly on their website. That's how you know you can trust the person
Mhm,
that picks up will be someone from the bank, right? The bank typically, and I could be mistaken, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but I believe the banks will usually always mail you regarding important updates, information, things that you should be aware about, right?
right,
I
right.
believe the banks typically will not call you directly. They
Mhm.
usually will mail you a letter that will show that, first of all, have their logo, it'll show your account number, it'll show you that they are the legitimate bank and that they just want to get in touch with you, right? And then they might list a phone number there that they ask you to call them back. So if someone calls you, first of all, if this is really your bank, right? The bank
Mhm.
has all your information. The bank will not be asking you, right? Like, oh, can you give us your social security number, right? They typically will ask you for like, oh, what's your account number and things like that. So I would say when you, in regards to your question, make sure that whoever you're calling, when you're using your voice to contact these people, make sure that you are contacting the correct number, and make sure you are just, again, the big word is cross referencing. Cross reference that number, cross reference the information.
I will not be doing that because
Well, I hope you do. You have to make sure that you are
no,
calling the right person.
well, what I'm saying, I wouldn't use my voice because I don't trust it. I really don't, and
Oh yeah,
I don't feel comfortable with that. So I would never do
in
that.
person is always great too. That's probably the most trusted way to make sure that you will not be scammed or fraud is if you go in person to the bank. But unfortunately, because a lot of seniors out there, they can't make regular trips to the bank sometimes, if especially if maybe they're disabled or they have a hard time getting up. So
Right,
these
right.
these seniors will have to call the banks typically, and for them, I would usually say make sure you go straight to the bank's website and you get the correct number there.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Of
Well,
course.
I would love to bring you back to talk more about the AI because I mean, they're constantly asking, do you want AI? And with the new computer that I have, it has a place there where AI comes up and say, how can I help you today, Orian? And I just click it off because I may ask for something real simple, but
Okay.
to really do something, no, I just don't trust it at all
Yeah,
because I know that there's advantages and disadvantages of having AI.
there
So
are. Yeah.
I just don't feel that comfortable with it yet. I don't know if I ever will because there's just so many things that I have learned in the last year that directs you back to AI. And actually, I have a friend, Minister Jesse, who teaches on end time Bible prophecy. And
Hmm.
she was telling us about AI back in 2020 when I had never heard of it before. I mean, and she was telling us about it then, and now it's very popular. So I personally don't feel that comfortable yet with it. Some things just have to be able to uh, pray and discern about and ask for wisdom and knowledge because we're living in some perilous times and it's so much out there that you can be taken advantage of. And a lot of these things that you have mentioned tonight, I have actually had an encounter with it. Matter of fact, in 2024, my computer was scammed twice. In 2023, it was scammed
Oh
once.
wow.
Yes, so I'm very, very leery now. But you giving me some insight today that I really appreciate. And I'm going to take advantage of it. I took a few notes, but I really would love for you to come back again, Eugene. I mean, you're a world of knowledge, and I really appreciate you. And it's been a pleasure. I mean, it really has been a pleasure to have you. And again, I would love for you to come again. And I know you're busy, but maybe we can get you in before the holidays are over. Again, to
Yeah,
talk more about AI, and you'll have more information. And I know that this is going to touch a lot of people. So I'm going to say to my audience, please, please, it has been so enlightening, some of this information. So you definitely want to like, share, and subscribe to On with Orian, sharing information that people want to know. Again, I want to thank you very much, Eugene. Have a wonderful evening. And I really appreciate you. Thank you so
of
much.
course. Yeah, and please feel free to invite me for any other topics. I'd love to share more about it. So let me
Hey,
know.
I will, definitely. Goodbye. Talk to you
All right.
soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.